Ciao, everyone. Good evening and welcome to Monday Night Travel. Tonight, I am excited to whisk you away to the Veneto region where we'll go on a ride through the Grand Canal, visit Verona, beautiful Padua, and Ravenna. Now, I'm Ben Green. I don't know if you recognize me with my Venetian mask on, but I'm going to be the host as we travel in the Veneto. So let's get started. I'm going to take this off because I can only see about 50% of usual. There we go. So tonight's travels will be a trip report, a review of experiences that I had recently in the Veneto region. About 2 weeks of time in April, which was a great time to go. It was after Easter, but before the Biennale, this busy period, which is a major art festival in Venice. The weather was excellent, 65 to 75 degrees each day. I'm not an expert on Venice per se, but this amount of time, 2 weeks that I spent here, allows me to glean quite a bit. My goal is to take you on the journey I experienced while providing tips on managing crowds, what the updates are, and other Venetian insights. And maybe if you didn't have Venice on your list up to this point, after this presentation, you may change your mind. So let's get started. And yes, we can call it, just for tonight, Venice and the Veneto. So again, here's what we're going to be traveling to. We'll start with Venice, then go to Padua, Verona, and Ravenna. The Veneto region that you see here in northeastern Italy is not very large. It's about the size of New Jersey, but it has a lot to offer, from Adriatic beaches to the eastern shores of the Lake Garda, past magnificent villas there, and much more. This map is giving away a little fact here. You see, I've circled Ravenna. Ravenna is actually in Emilia-Romagna, the neighboring region, but that's a good thing, even though it's not part of the Veneto, because it has its own unique cuisine and culture that we'll learn about later. First up is Venice, a carless kaleidoscope of people, bridges, and canals. It's made up of more than 100 small islands, but when I say Venice, I mean the historic island of Venice that you see here, not Mestre on the mainland. I'm a history student, so I feel it's imperative to share a bit of Venetian history. And unlike most major Italian cities, Venice has no Roman roots. Settlement here began with huts on stilts in shallow water, trading fish and salt. The story goes that the city was founded, or the community, I should say, was founded in 421. In the centuries that followed, trade expanded down the Adriatic, the eastern side in particular, the Slavic side. The Venetians eventually gained control of the area, and they called the Adriatic their house, or our house. Adriatic control was critically important. After all, historic Venetians were first and foremost sailors. Eventually, they even controlled Corfu, which you see there near the entrance of the Adriatic, and went as far as the southern Crimea, which is today part of Russia/Ukraine. This was the golden age of Venice from the 13th to 16th centuries, when the city was known as La Serenissima, the most serene republic. And in towns in Croatia and other areas on the Adriatic, you may still see the Lion of Venice, a remaining symbol of Venice's former power. So no wonder the city has such beautiful architecture from all this trading and the wealth that it gained from it. A few pieces of information to orient us and start us off. The island city of Venice has a demographic problem. It's expensive to live there. Many young residents leave for the mainland, and the city's population is aging. The average age on the island is about 50. Venice is great to visit all year, I would say. I would recommend the time frame that I visited, spring, April. It was excellent. Fall is also very nice. The summer can be a bit hot and crowded. You can get around on foot via the floating buses known as vaporetti, or via expensive water taxi. I'll talk more about this later. Many visitors do make Venice a day trip, but to really enjoy it, I would recommend 3 to 4 nights if you can give that amount. I spent 9 nights on the historic island, and my appreciation of the city only grew with time, and I think yours will too. I use credit card for everything except for a €2 ticket on the traghetto that crosses the Grand Canal, which I will mention later as well. Some notes on reservations, because this is fairly important. With lots of people visiting this region, there are certain sites which benefit or completely require advanced reservations. So in Venice, that's the Campanile Tower, the Doge's Palace, St. Mark's Basilica. And during busy times, you may also consider a reservation from Peggy Guggenheim collection and the Academia, just to save yourself some time in their ticket office. In Padua or Padua, Padua is the English term, Padua is the Italian, only the Scrivini Chapel and the newly opened Torre degli Anziani requires a reservation. And in fact, the tower, really it's just a few days ahead, and you may be able to get a ticket on the spot. It just does fill up at times on the day. In Verona, Juliet and Romeo's balcony, which was free for decades, just starting in April, now requires reservations. And in Ravenna, there is a mosaic combo ticket for the best sites in the city, and that is best reserved a few days ahead. In addition, in all of these places, nicer, finer restaurants benefit from advanced reservations as well. I bet many of you are wondering, I've heard about this access fee to visit Venice. Don't worry too much about it, but it is something to finalize ahead of time. Venice's attempt to address overcrowding is this access fee. On certain days, you may need to register online and pay the fee of €5 to enter. If you register within 4 days, it's €10. If you're staying the night, however, you're considered someone adding more value to the economy, you are exempt from the fee, but you still need to register online to get a QR code. You'll get the QR code after completing the form, and then you may be asked to show it when you arrive. So here we are just out of the main train station on the island across the causeway, where during at least the working hours of the day, there are people checking for QR codes on people entering. There's more information on this, by the way, in an article my colleagues have written in the chat that Gabe has posted. There are signs everywhere so that it's pretty clear to help you figure out what the access fee is and if you may need it, but you'll see information online. Arriving in Venice is a question that we receive often. How do I arrive? Where do I go? How do I get to my hotel on the island? So let me run this by you here. So hopefully it's clear. There are 4 main options from the airport, which is in the top of this map, the Marco Polo Airport. You can take an Alia Laguna shuttle, which is about €20. They run twice an hour, and the trip takes 1 to 1.5 hours. This is directly to the island. Also direct, more luxurious, is a private water taxi that you can get just outside the airport. This is expensive, though, around €160. Up to several people can ride one boat, and it takes about 30 minutes. Indirectly, but fairly inexpensive, is the airport bus to Piazzale Roma. So it's a bus that goes down the coast and across the causeway to the bus station, and then you switch to a vaporetto. Or there's a land taxi. This is probably the least recommended option. Land taxi from the airport to Piazzale Roma, which is around €70, 20 minutes, and then switch to the vaporetto. Once you're at Piazzale Roma, on the island itself, you would switch to a boat to the vaporetto, the floating bus system. And the same goes if you arrive by train to Venice at the Santa Lucia train station on the island. So here is the vaporetto stop for the Santa Lucia station. It's called Ferrovia. Right now, there are still ticket windows and ticket machines, but Venice has switched to tap to pay, and they're doing both right now, both paper tickets and tap to pay. But by the end of the year, it will probably be only tap to pay. And here you can see what that looks like. Fairly straightforward, although the sound maybe makes it seem like it hasn't worked, but the green check mark gives it away. So you'll just do that when entering to ride the dock and get on a vaporetto, and it will automatically charge you the correct amount. Right now, it's €9.50 for a single 75-minute ticket, €25 for a 24-hour pass, and so on and so forth. So up to 5 people can use the same credit card. You simply tap it again for each additional passenger. So you would tap it once, it would make that noise. You would tap it again for a second passenger, and so on. And then once you've paid, you can go to the dock and wait for the boat to arrive. Google Maps is quite helpful here if you're comfortable using it. I used it throughout my time in Venice, and it was accurate throughout when I needed to use it. Venice is separated into a variety of different neighborhoods, about 5 or 6. San Marco is the heart and most famous part of the city. It holds major spots like St. Mark's Basilica, the Doge's Palace, and luxury shops. Prices here tend to be a bit higher. Cannaregio in the north is populated with more locals. It contains the historic Jewish district and offers a more vibrant local feel. So I really enjoy this neighborhood. This is a great backdoor area to either stay in or at least visit. There's Dorsoduro, which is the artistic area and university hub. It houses the Academia and Peggy Guggenheim collection. There's Castello, the largest and most eastern district. It transitions from busy shipyards into more local residential green areas. Also, there's Giudecca on the south end. This is also very quiet and a place to see a local Venice. So I cannot complete my work updating the book without help from local guides. And one of the best is Igor Scomparin. He's quite the character. And Elena Zamperon helped me as well. You'll see her in just a minute. They are just fun people, and you can hire them too. They're listed in our guidebooks if you're interested in having their expertise while in Venice. And for more on what my guidebook experience is like, I'm going to play a video for you. I hope you enjoy it. It's just a couple minutes on what a day in the life of a guidebook researcher is like.
As a guidebook researcher at Rick Steves Europe, it's my job to update recommendations, scout new spots, and figure out what's worth your time as a traveler. Here's what a day in the life of a guidebook researcher looks like in the beautiful city of Venice. Before 8 a.m., I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to get started, or at least after some breakfast and Italian coffee. I use this time to thoroughly organize my schedule for the day. With my plan set, it's time to depart. The market opens early in the morning, so I start my day by assessing a food tour to review its quality and value before adding it to our book. Taking a food tour is a fantastic experience. You receive excellent information about local culture, cuisine, and what is currently in season. Next, I check out a few sites, and today that includes St. Mark's Basilica, which requires an advanced online reservation. Any changes to the booking process or the engaging museum tour in the guidebook are carefully noted. I love the 13th century mosaics in the basilica entryway. Then I met a good friend and local guide, Elena, taking advantage of her perspective and deep expertise to help our travelers become temporary locals themselves. She gave me a great tip. Venice will switch to only tap to pay for the Vaporetto and eliminate paper tickets later this year. It's lunchtime, and that means we can check out area restaurants. I'm tackling Venice neighborhood by neighborhood, and today I'm sticking to the Rialto and St. Mark's area. Today I focused on cicchetti, aka small Venetian snacks or side dishes similar to tapas. Along the way, I'm assessing restaurants for friendliness, atmosphere, and local authenticity, so our travelers have the best dining experience. Simultaneously, I check out our nearby recommended hotels, such as the Hotel Campiello. It is a joy to meet staff and see rooms firsthand, looking for character, value, and family-run friendliness. Sometimes I even find something very familiar. With evening approaching, I navigate to the Vaporetto, Venice's floating bus system, to review the latest prices, routes, and payment methods. And that means hopping on for a ride. Golden hour is a beautiful time to be on the water. You never know what you'll see, such as a new glass sculpture by local Seattle glassmaker Chihuly next to the Academia Bridge. Looping back to the hotel, it is time to input all I've learned today and prepare notes for our guidebook editors at Rick Steves Europe headquarters. After this busy day with over 20,000 steps logged, I say goodnight to Venice and prepare for another research day in a new neighborhood tomorrow. Buona notte. Ciao.
Ha! Well, there's 24 hours in 2 minutes. Guidebook research looks dreamy, and it's wonderful. I'm so grateful that I get to do it, but it's also quite a bit of work. And I'll just expand on a few points that were mentioned in that video, hotels being one of them. Venice has so many wonderful family-run hotels that are well located. We list them in our books. One of them is Locanda Casa Querini, run by Lorenzo and Caterina. They are so great. They just have a handful of rooms in the traditional Venetian style. And as was mentioned in the video, I stayed at Campiello Hotel, just around from St. Mark's Square. Characteristic of many traditional spots are glass chandeliers, not this fancy, mind you. This is a special one in a museum, but glass chandeliers from Murano are commonly seen at many Venetian hotels. They're a nice treat in your room. And a food tour that is something that is really becoming a great thing to do when traveling, especially in cities. And in Venice, that is no different. So, one thing that struck me here that I learned about on my food tour are these scallops. They have this orange part on them, and I love scallops. I've never seen that before. Well, it turns out that the US removes them because they have a shorter shelf life, and the consumer preference supposedly in our country is for uniform white meat, but most of the rest of the world keeps them on. So that's just a little thing that I learned, an example of all the wonderful things you can learn on a food tour. I was with Vanessa, our guide. We had scallops, fried zucchini flour, sardines with polenta, and much more. And I met a wonderful group of people on the tour as well. Baroque concerts are becoming more popular in Venice. This is something I experienced. One house offering them in the beautiful Scuola Grande Dan Teodoro is I Musici Veneziani, this group offering a concert for around 40 euros each evening at 8:30 for an hour and a half. It's from the powdered wig Baroque era, so you can take your pick. There's a variety of them, this just being one of traditional Vivaldi concerts in and around town. So many people, from cruise shippers to crazy young hostelers, are visiting Venice as a day trip, but do spend the night and take advantage of mornings and evenings. This is 9:30 looking at St. Mark's Square. There's still plenty of room, and at 8:30, there was practically no one here. Meanwhile, at the end of the day at 4 o'clock, that is a completely different experience. You'll be stuck in the crowds. So during the busy afternoon, consider taking a siesta, visiting a museum, or walking in Venice's quieter neighborhoods like Cannaregio. But look, you do have to see, or you should see, St. Mark's when in Venice. But you don't need to spend the night in this neighborhood. Visit the gorgeous basilica and go up the Campanile early if possible, and you'll have more time choices if you make the reservation online further in advance. Usually they're available about 60 days ahead of time. It used to be possible to book a ticket for St. Mark's Basilica on the day. Now they list a QR code in front of the basilica, but it's almost always sold out for tickets that day. So you definitely want to do this ahead of time. St. Mark's is beautifully illuminated during Mass and on weekdays from 11:30 to 12:45. So that is a nice time to see it, but it is crowded. St. Mark's Basilica. This is the Pentecost mosaic. You see the heads of 12 apostles. They have the ability to just look at each other for centuries. This is one of the oldest mosaics in the church from 1125. It has distinct Byzantine features, a gold background. These apostles have halos and solemn faces. Two sites in the basilica require a separate ticket, and I recommend you simply purchase them together as one. This is the golden altarpiece. It's near the front of the church or the basilica. It's a stunning golden wall made of 250 blue-backed enamels with religious scenes. It has 15 hefty rubies, 300 emeralds, 1,500 pearls, and assorted sapphires, amethysts, and topaz. It's believed that it's from a plunder of 1204 from Venetian trading. Upstairs in the museum, also part of this larger ticket that you can add on, you have other mosaics, but the highlights are views of the basilica from the balcony and views of St. Mark's Square. Also in the museum are the original bronze horses, and these bronze statues are rare survivors of a remarkable ancient technology known as the lost wax method. They weren't hammered into shape by metalsmiths, but cast made by pouring molten bronze into clay molds. Each horse weighs about a ton. Not much has changed with St. Mark's Basilica in the last years. There is a treasury. That is something that has been closed to the public for years, and it remains closed. And I tried to find out when it may reopen, and the staff are not sure. It looks like it's going to be quite some time. Also in next door is the Doge's Palace, which housed the government of the rich and powerful empire. It was the home of the Venetian ruler known as the Doge, or Duke. From about 4 centuries, this was perhaps the most powerful house in Europe. Today, you'll walk through majestic rooms in the Doge's palace where the Doge lived, where the Venetian government met to administer the empire. There are many large and colorful paintings by Venice's greatest artists, and you'll end your visit by crossing the famed Bridge of Sighs into notorious prisons. Venice is full of incredible art. I'm going to talk about art for a little bit now. Peggy Guggenheim collection. I went here to update this chapter, and so much had changed in 2 years. That's because this is a private museum, and Peggy Guggenheim's staff can do what they like. So the paintings are always changing, they're rotating. So don't necessarily know what specific paintings you're going to see when you come here. However, it's all in the same style. I actually was able to enlist Gene Openshaw's help to rewrite this section for the next edition. He's a much bigger art buff than me. So this is the American heiress's retirement palazzo. It does offer one of the best reviews of art of the first half of the 20th century. So you'll see Cubism, Surrealism, and American abstract expressionism. An example of a painting I expected to see that was no longer on display is this Rain by Marc Chagall in 1911. The museum still has it, but they're just rotating other works. This is an image from The Last Researcher. It is an excellent museum if you're interested in 20th century art. But my favorite place to see art in Venice is in situ, so to speak, in the historic Frari Church. This church was built by the Franciscan order and consecrated in 1492. Many great Venetians, including some Doges, chose to be buried in the church. Take a look at the bottom right here, just above the wooden pews. See the discoloration on the wall to the right of the dark door. This is damage over time from aqua alta. Aqua alta is where high tides and winds push seawater into city streets, and it's an issue in Venice, but not a reason to not visit. Almost always the flooding is minor. And with any travel, I recommend that you have one pair of shoes that's waterproof, and usually that will do the trick. Residents have had to adjust. In some cases, they are adding step barriers off the street. This is a more recent addition, so if the aqua alta is maybe a foot or less, this step barrier into this doorway will hopefully limit flooding. In Venice, signs and markers for aqua alta include high tide level plaques on building walls, metal height lines painted on shop fronts, and temporary street signs or digital boards mapping out elevated pedestrian pathways. It was not a problem in my recent visit, however, and it's most common in the winter time. So don't worry too much about it. Just know that it may happen. I was so impressed with the Scuola San Rocco, sometimes called Tintoretto's Sistine Chapel. It's a lavish meeting hall just down from Frari Church, that I upgraded its importance to 2 triangles for the next edition of the Venice guidebook. It has some 50 large, colorful Tintoretto paintings on the walls and ceilings. The best are upstairs in the grand chapter room. It's seriously impressive. Look closely at the fine detail throughout the room and you'll see something like this wood carving of Tintoretto himself. The artist is holding tools of the trade, and his craggy, wrinkled face peers out from under a black cap behind a scraggly board. The Accademia is still Venice's best art museum. That hasn't changed, but they have removed a few pieces. The one on the right, the Madonna and Child by Veneziano, is no longer viewable, and the rooms 19 through 21 are currently closed for renovation. However, hopefully that will no longer be the case beginning next year. It's still the best museum anywhere for Venetian Renaissance art, and a good overview of painters whose works you'll see in other places throughout town. So Venice remains a city with a beautiful artisan tradition. I want to talk about the just amazing artisans of Venice for a few minutes. These talented, skilled craft makers are dying out, so don't miss the opportunity to see them when you visit Venice next. Here we have a printmaker, Gianni. He's in the Cannaregio neighborhood. He's been printing this way for many years, and he makes stationery for people across the world. We have an oarlock maker for gondolas. This is Piero next. You know, oarlock is what holds the gondola oar in place.
Even shaved.
No, because Sunday I ran 25 kilometers. I need to be faster. Yeah.
By the way, that's Igor laughing. You can hear what a character he is. He's such a good time. But all of this work takes such tremendous time, and the attention to detail is remarkable. And you can just walk in and see them at their craft. Next, we have hand-blown glass. This is apparently, so I understand, extremely difficult, and there's a small number of people in the world who can make quality hand-blown glass this size. So this is a shell that's being made. But Venice is also known on the island of Murano for larger glass pieces. So when you go to Murano, you can see glass blowing being done.
We have a Massimo and Igor.
That's going to be an orange vase, I understand. The next image is my friend Daniela Gezzo. She has been making shoes by hand for years, extremely wonderful quality shoes. She's had some remarkable clients as well, including the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And a tradition in Venice as well is making eyewear by hand, bespoke glasses. And this is in Barberia, in the San Marco neighborhood, where just outside, it's in the main street, you can just look in, they are working on a pair in their front window. A bit on Venetian cuisine, because this is something that I value greatly when visiting a place. The spaghetti alla vongole is Venetian clams with pasta. It's a classic. I recommend it. You also have cicchetti, which was mentioned earlier. This is essentially Venetian tapas, to put it plainly. Here you see a fine trio with a glass of Valpolicella that I enjoyed. We have salami and cheese. We have a fried cheese ball on the right, and I think that was anchovies with this beautiful orange tomatoes on the left side. Markets. Venice has some wonderful markets. I was taken there by Vanessa on our food tour.
The side of the plant, okay, and then we see them always floating into water and lemon for avoiding to get darker.
There's also a fish market next door, but this is near Rialto Market, extremely central. It's Monday through Saturday from about 8 to 1, most active in the morning, closed on Sundays. But this Rialto Market is one of the best in the city. It's great to see what's in season, because when you see what's in season, then you know what to order at a restaurant. When I was there in April, I think the asparagus was in good shape. Another thing I enjoy in Venice are the fried fish and vegetables. It's almost like a light tempura, if you will. And with this little lemon wedge they give you, it just adds a little acidity. It is perfect. Okay, spritz, very important. The Aperol spritz in the last couple of decades, I think, has pretty much taken over the world. And in fact, I have a special spritz here tonight. I have a spritz made from Select, which is the original Venetian spritz. It's hard to find outside of the Veneto region. So when you're there, maybe bring a bottle home. It's between Aperol and Campari in terms of bitterness. And so how do you make a spritz? Well, it consists of Prosecco, because we're in Italy, sparkling water, and the bitter aperitif, which for me this evening is the Select. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So an aperitif is a bitter liqueur. You may have heard of course, Aperol. That's the most common spritz. That is from Padua, neighboring city. We'll go there later. In this image, which I showed you here, I'll pull it back. This is actually Cynar, which is another bitter aperitif made from artichoke leaves. So there's quite a variety. You'll also find limoncello spritz and many others. But this is the classic drink of the Veneto and a must-have. I recommend you try several. There you see the Select spritz. Very affordable, that bottle I just showed you. €8.99. Okay, when you are going to a restaurant in Venice, I recommend you go to one that has been around for a while. There's many in our book. One of my favorites is the restaurant Antica Secrestia. It's in a building that has been standing for 900 years, and the owner for decades is Pino, a friend of mine and a friend of Rick's. He's a great restaurateur and so knowledgeable about Venetian cuisine. He'll be happy to help you order the best thing for you. His famous quote that I just love, "The history of Venice is on the plate." And I think that's so true. One of the best, just the most wonderful Venetian experiences you can have is cruising down the Grand Canal. And it's very inexpensive. You're just paying for the Vaporetto. This route has not changed for years. I went down the Grand Canal 2 or 3 times on the Vaporetto in my visit, and it's just the same as it as it was for the last researcher. My best tip is to take the Vaporetto from Piazzale Roma, which is in the center left of the screen, that's near the bus station, and aim for an older boat. Not all the Vaporetto were made at the same time and have the same layout, but the older boats have a more open seating in the front. And if you get on early and get one of these front seats, you have a clear view as you go down the Grand Canal. It's fantastic. You can also pop in your earbuds and follow along to Rick's Grand Canal audio tour as you cruise. This is also a great way to orient yourself to the city because so many important buildings, museums, and sites are along the Grand Canal. And by the way, I mentioned the traghetto earlier. I'll just mention it now. The traghetto is essentially a gondola that crosses the Grand Canal in several locations. It's €2 and it's cash only. This is the only time I needed cash when in Venice. So if you're not near a bridge, like the Accademia Bridge or the Rialto Bridge, you may get on a traghetto, and it's a wonderful way to take a gondola ride without paying the 80 to 100 euros that you would for a gondola. And speaking of gondolas, they're easy to find throughout the city. Most gondoliers have a standard rate, 80 during the day, 100 in the evening. If you're traveling with someone, you can split it. For example, 2 couples, it makes the price more affordable. But there are signs posted throughout the city. You can just agree on a time and a price, and you should be in good shape. It's relatively simple. Don't worry too much ahead about it. You'll definitely be able to find a gondolier if you wish to have that experience. But a traghetto, inexpensive and easy as well. And great if you're a solo traveler and don't have someone special to experience the gondola with. So here we are in front of the number 1 boat. That was a traghetto right there, just in front of us. And you see, you have the best view, no obstructions at all. If you're spending more than 2 or 3 days in Venice, speaking of boats, you can take a longer Vaporetto to the lagoon. But it's only worth doing if you have enough time. If you just have 2 full days, probably you should skip it. If you have 3 full days or more, it's definitely worth considering. The Vaporetto is the most affordable option. You can also take a water taxi, fairly expensive. You can take an Ali Laguna shuttle boat, or you can take a private tour. Igor, for example, offers excellent private tours of the lagoon. During weekdays and sunny days in particular, the boats to the lagoon are crowded, so either go early or consider visiting the islands in the opposite direction. We have a wonderful lagoon tour in the guidebook that I reviewed and updated. And my biggest tip for the next edition was, instead of going the route that many people are taking in the lagoon, which is Murano first, then Verona, then Torcello, and making the trip back, do it the opposite way. Go to Torcello, then Verona, then Murano, and head back, because most people are not taking that route. So you won't be there at the same time as the vast majority of people. So that's one suggestion. So let's take the tour from the northern side of the historic island of Venice in Cannaregio. The main stop is Fondamente Nove, and you take the 4.1 or the 4.2 to Murano in a very short time. But the first stop is actually San Michele, the cemetery island. And maybe this isn't for everyone, but I personally enjoy seeing how a community remembers their loved ones. I think it's very insightful and a wonderful cultural component of a society. San Michele has been Venice's cemetery for more than 200 years. You'll dig through this one and see flowers, trees, lizards, a lot of birds. It's very peaceful and a wonderful escape from the city. Among the distinguished people buried here include Igor Stravinsky, the Russian-born modernist composer, poet Erza Pound. I believe her daughter might have just died a few days ago, and I saw in the news. Nobel laureate Joseph Brodsky, and many others. And one of the joys of guidebook research is when vegetation has changed, sometimes the description on finding a grave in our book is not the same. So I had the pleasure of really searching for a few of the graves as vegetation had grown dramatically in the last year or two. More typically in Italy and in Venice, you'll see above ground interments in these concrete wall niches or family mausoleums. They usually have a photo of the loved one as well. And I enjoy just walking through and seeing the pictures and imagining what their lives in Venice might have been like. The next stop, just 5 minutes beyond San Michele, is Murano, known for its glass. This is the busiest island, being closest to the historic mainland. There's an array of expensive glass shops, of course. We list a few in our book that can help you weed out which ones are worth visiting. The storefronts along here display everything from knickknacks to vases to, of course, glasses. The price isn't always indicative of a good deal because oftentimes the cheaper pieces of glass are not actually made on Murano. Ideally, if you ask, they will tell you the truth and say. But the cheapest pieces are not necessarily Murano glass, if that matters to you. They may be still Italian glass, however. One location I added for the next edition of the book is this company, Barovier and Tosto, which is from 1295. They're actually one of the oldest family-run companies in the world, and you can pop into their showroom during the working hours and see their mixture of antique and contemporary glasswork. You can't miss this chandelier on the right side in the entryway. It's 5 meters tall and is made up of 5,000 pieces of glass. So as you're exploring Murano, this is just something to see for free. 30 or 40 minutes beyond Murano is Verona, which is my favorite lagoon island. It's usually not as busy, and it's more picturesque with these lovely, vibrant pastel buildings. While Murano is known for glass, Verona is known for lace, and lace shops line the main drag, including the Malletti d'Arte dalla Lydia, with its excellent private museum in the rear of the shop. I believe this is Paola, who recently passed away. We had this photo in our archive. She was a wonderful lace maker, exceptionally talented, but her son David is continuing her legacy and upholds the fine work of his mom in this store. Just a few minutes from Verona is a very small island, Torcello, and supposedly this is where Venice was born, and it's where some of the first mainland refugees settled a millennium and a half ago to escape barbarian hordes, but it's quite small today. There's, I think, something like 20 people living on the island. There's a walkway from the Vaporetto stop to the two main sites, which includes the Santa Maria Assunta Church. The mosaic on the back wall of the church is actually quite famous and worth seeing. It's 6 horizontal bands depicting the Last Judgment and other scenes. There's also a museum on the island that's worth seeing as well. I enjoy, though, is the tower on top of the church. It's about 80 steps, and you have sweeping views of the lagoon. This is looking back towards Verona with its leaning campanile, which leans, I believe, about 5 degrees, similar to Pisa's tower. So back in Venice, we hit the road, or the tracks, rather, and go inland 30 minutes to Padua. It's just a few euros from Venice to Padua, so you could easily make Padua a day trip, but if you had the time, you certainly could spend the night. So while Verona is well-heeled and Venice heavily visited, Padua is, in my opinion, the Veneto's most approachable and unassuming city. I really enjoy it. It's famous for its extensive network of porticos spanning roughly 15 miles across the city, which is about the most of any city in Italy. There may be one other that is slightly more. They are often intricately decorated. And as in Venice, I had the help of a local guide. This is Christina. She also leads our Village Italy tour, so maybe some of you had the pleasure of having her as a tour guide. She is fantastic and was super helpful. And the Village Italy tour commences here in Padua, so she's perfect to lead that itinerary. I joined her tour for the first main day because she was giving a tour of Padua University, which is from 1222 and an important part of the city and its culture. So if you'd like to get inside some of the buildings, you can take a student-led tour. These are generally available in the week, and on weekends you can also use an audio guide. All tours include a look at Europe's first great anatomy theater from 1595. The student culture in Padua is, I think, some of the best I've ever seen. You can just grab a spritz on the main square and say hello, because in the evening, there's usually a lot of students, unless it's during summertime, and they're eager to talk with you. They're more likely to know English, although English is widely spoken in these cities. It was so cool to see the tradition of university graduates also. So at first, for the ceremony, they're wearing their more nicer clothing. But then the graduate often gets in raunchy outfits, And their gang of friends and family joins them, and then the roast begins. So they roll out this giant butcher paper poster, often with some kind of obscene caricature of the graduate, and you see her face there. And the new grad is then subjected to various pranks and must read the funny statements aloud in front of everyone that's on the poster. I think that's a very fun way to celebrate a graduation. So squares in central Padua. I mentioned the square with the students that you saw earlier. There were three main squares all right next to each other: Piazza de' Signori, Piazza Erbe, Piazza Frutta. They all are lined with restaurants and shops. One new site here is the Torre degli Anziani, which is that tower that you see there next to the palazzo. It's about 800 years old. It's been closed to the public for decades. Recently, it was reopened with 239 steps. You first visit by watching a 15-minute video, which introduces you to the tower's long history and its importance in medieval Padua. If there was a fire, if there was an enemy coming, if there was anything important or an emergency, then the person in the watchtower would alert the town. But now it's just known for its great view. The markets have been renowned for centuries here in central Padua, particularly for fruits and vegetables. So do wander around the three squares. You'll also find arts and crafts. And that view from the top of the tower is excellent and worth the steps, I think. So we are close to Venice. Padua was under Venetian control for 400 years, hence the Lion of Venice. And this clock, the Palazzo del Capitanio, is from 1437, and it decorates a tower dedicated to its upkeep. For years, there was someone who worked full-time managing the clock. I was blown away by this baptistry of the Duomo of Padua. This art is from Giusto di Menabois, who decorated this in the 1370s. This is 70 years after Giotto's Scrivini Chapel, which we'll see in a few minutes, and the style is similar. Christ is in the center of the cupola, while Mary and a multitude of saints and angels, more than 100 actually, you see there, are arrayed below them, providing the devout with access to the divine, or at least that's what they say. As part of this experience, you were given an audio guide, and the lighting in the baptistry actually changes and matches the audio guide so that each panel, each section of the baptistry is lit up at the right time. And that made it an excellent experience. So I would highly recommend you visit this baptistry. And here you can get a sense of the interior a little bit better. This audio guide is something I think more museums are using. And like the tower, the Torre degli Anziani, you start with a 15-minute introduction to the history of the baptistry, which is a nice way to orient yourself. And I think that's fairly new. I don't think that was the case a few years ago that they offered that. Named after the friar Anthony of Padua, well, yes, his remains now are in the Basilica of St. Anthony, and this glorious church attracts a lot of pilgrims to Padua. So this is actually a must-see, three-triangle site in Padua. But there weren't too many changes, and advanced reservations are not required, even though it is a major site. The tomb of St. Anthony is in the center, and surrounded by that are Renaissance marble masterpieces from the 16th century. This is a little unusual. So there's in the basilica, there's a chapel of the reliquaries. This is the most prized relic in the glass case here. It's his tongue. So when Anthony's remains were exhumed in the 13th century, like 1263, his body had decayed, unsurprisingly, but his tongue was found to be remarkably unspoiled, still red, and it's on display for you to see. Nearby is the largest pedestrian square in Europe, or at least one of the largest squares. This is the Piazza Prato della Valle. It's a 400-yard long oval piazza, and it's actually an artificial island surrounded by a canal just around the corner from the basilica. The only site needing advanced reservations in Padua is the Scrivini Chapel. And it used to be that you could receive a paper ticket or that they would accept a printout, but now it's a QR code. I suppose you could have the printed out QR code. You do need to reserve this fairly well in advance, at least a couple weeks, unless it's perhaps in winter. This is painted by Giotto and his assistants in the beginning of the 14th century. And it was a symbol of what was to come. This is the beginning of the Renaissance. Giotto shifted the focus from heaven to earth here, placing real people in real scenes, expressing human emotions. The entire chapel was painted in 200 days over 2 years with the help of 40 workers. But you only get 15 minutes to see it. And as is tradition, it seems in Padua, you start with a welcome video. The humidity and temperature of that room where the welcome video is adjusted. Then you walk in so that when they open the door to the Scrivini Chapel, the air is at the right point to continue the preservation. So the chapel's 38 panels tell the story of the 3-generational history of Jesus, his mother Mary, and Mary's parents. It is very special. Although I would say the baptistry of the Duomo by Giusto di Bois is also remarkably beautiful. A site that I added in Padua for the next edition of the book is the Museum of Nature and Humankind. It used to be that the University of Padua had a handful of different museums, but they've been combined into this single one. It's interactive, modern, and it takes you on a journey through the natural sciences with an emphasis on the Veneto region. So if you're interested in this, if you're a science buff, or if you're traveling with kids in particular, I think that its excellent captions, its visual displays, and its tablets with more information provide an entertaining and educational experience. This is one of my favorite things in the museum. It's the skeleton of an elephant that was brought to Venice for Carnival in 1819 that got loose, ran through the island's narrow streets, and was eventually killed. So as you'll see when you go to Venice, this city was a crazy place centuries ago, particularly during Carnival. They had some wild traditions. So the former Jewish ghetto in Padua is fairly minor in appearance, but it's worth seeing in the center. There are signs with information on the Jewish ghetto's history, and you may see the front of the Italian synagogue. There's sometimes even police standing there for safety, but this is an important part of Padua's history as well. Local things to try in Padua. Well, at Cafe Pedrocchi, there is this famous espresso with cream, mint syrup, and chocolate powder. And one tip I can give you that I learned is that if you sit down, it's €6, but if you stand up, it's $3.50. So if you're looking to save something, and I actually like the iced version, that's what this is. I love the colors as well. Something about green appeals to me. I think you can understand why. Now, confession, I have a fascination with mortadella that began after a colleague recently made mortadella cookies. And Padua has a fine mortadella sandwich shop, so that was great to try, just an inexpensive place. And these are lining the 3 main squares in the center of the city, and the Palazzo and the Torre degli Anziani. In the evenings only, La Folperia squid stand next to the Palazzo sells plates of chopped up squid, octopus, and other sea creatures. It's then smothered in a garlic olive oil sauce. You'll pay a little extra for bread, but it's worth it to mop up the sauce. It is so good. And Padua is something of a little ice cream gelato gem. You'll have 5 or 6 places to choose from in the very center, just a few minutes from each other. I like and added to the next edition Da Beppi, D-A-B-E-P-I. I thought it had some of the best gelato. Difficult work, I know, but someone has to do it. So now we'll say goodbye to Padua and take the train, only for €9 or so, and 1 hour to Verona. So Verona fills up a bend in the river Adige, and it's the most populous city in the Veneto. It even has more people in Venice, even when you include the mainland of Venice. But its center is very small and easy to navigate. From the train station, you can hop on a short bus to the Piazza Bra, which is much closer to the center. It's near the bottom of this map of the center, near the Roman arena. This is a stately city, well-heeled, a bit posh. I felt underdressed researching here. When you go, I think you'll probably appreciate the good-looking locals. And by the way, Verona played a historic role in the 2026 Winter Olympics by hosting the closing ceremony inside the ancient arena. So they're still celebrating that. This arena has 72 aisles and held 30,000 people. Most of the stone is original from the 1st century AD, although it used to be 50% taller. And during my visit, actually, the arena was under construction. They were getting ready for summer concerts. So you can enjoy a summer concert from roughly May or June to August or September in the arena. The tickets range from €30 to a couple €100. You can check the schedule online and book, but I think that would be a wonderful thing to experience. Like in all other cities in the Veneto, I had the help of a local guide. Here it was Marina. She has also been helping us for many years. She was so helpful. And actually, she took me to a special place and helped me appreciate the Roman history here even more. We went to this United Colors of Benetton store down to the basement. And here are Roman ruins from the 2nd century AD. So I think this is the only time where I've gone shopping next to ancient Roman ruins. But that shows you the importance of the city and the ruins that still exist in the center of Verona. The biggest update for Verona, actually, was to the Romeo and Juliet balcony. It was free for years, but starting a few months ago, it's now a ticket that required €5 online in advance. And I would say, is it really worth seeing? Or I would ask, is it really worth seeing? I would answer by suggesting that unless you're a diehard fan, you can skip it. Tourists from all over the world come here to see the balcony and rub their polish and rub Juliet's bronze breast. I think it's skippable, and I believe Rick agrees with me. But just know that if you want to go here, you'll have to reserve it ahead. There's so many other great things to see in Verona, like the Basilica of San Zeno, a 9th century church, wonderful example of Italian Romanesque. It is a 15-minute walk from the center, but not too far. It has a lovely interior. Underneath the altar is the crypt with the remains of San Zeno. And you know, in these historic sites, there's often not many changes, right? I'm maybe adding to them a little bit, including a little more detail to the book. But in some cases, it's been here for centuries. Not a lot has changed. Behind the altar, there's the San Zeno triptych, which is the most interesting thing to see in San Zeno. It has such vivid colors and a perspective to create this northern Italian depiction of Madonna and Child. In the Basilica, there's a group of subtly mismatched frescoes that were painted generations apart, mainly 13th century. It's, in some cases, just nice graffiti. Prayers are etched into the walls around these pieces. You can see there. The 11th century doors at the front of the church are also very important. There's 48 distinct bronze panels. They're nicknamed the Poor Man's Bible because the panels illustrate episodes from Saint Zeno's life and the Old and New Testament. Along the river, there are many walkways. This adds a bit of serenity to the city, so definitely go for a stroll. There is a red brick bridge called the Ponte Scaligero. It's fortified next to a castle. It's free and open to the public and a great place to walk and see a busker or a few artists. It was destroyed in the Second World War, but rebuilt in the 50s. Many of the bricks are actually in the river Adige, and they had to be dredged up to rebuild the Ponte. Next to it is this castle, the Castle Vecchio Museum. It is formerly the home of the Scaligeri family, but it now houses the city's art museum with a fine collection from medieval times to the 18th century, including this Triumph of Pompeo, a set of paintings depicting a Roman triumphal procession. So you must cross this entrance to enter Roman Verona and go into the pedestrian street Porta Borsari. So back in Roman times, this gate functioned as a toll booth, but luckily today there's no toll. Carved into the rock below the spiral fluted columns is a tribute to the emperor who restored the gate centuries ago. Take your time as you pass the Porto, because the Porto Bassari Street, the Corso, it was the east-west Roman main drag toward what was called the Forum. You can make this a little scavenger hunt, because as you walk, you'll discover bits of the town's illustrious past, chips of Roman columns, medieval reliefs, fine old facades, fossils even. And a highlight of Verona, speaking of strolling, is the passeggiata, especially in the evening. It's almost like peacocks. The young and the old alike like to strut their stuff. The classy shop windows are an integral part of this experience. Shopping is a sport here. Wardrobes of residents are never finished. I wish I had a better picture to depict this, actually, because the locals are dressed exceptionally well. You can, of course, complement your passeggiata in the evening with a spritz. Further down this Corso is the Piazza Erbe, the bustling market square, and a photographer's delight with its wonderful pastel buildings and fountains. And people have congregated here since Roman times. Again, a Venetian lion, because for centuries, Verona was part of Venice. And the lion is a symbol of Venice because it represents Saint Mark, the evangelist, the city's patron saint. Behind the lion is the Palazzo Maffei, which has an excellent art collection, particularly strong for 20th century art, and a rooftop terrace with views over the square. My favorite painting in the Palazzo Maffei is Dreaming of Pomegranates. I even like the name. It's an oil on canvas by the artist Casa from about 1912. And you notice you may have seen other paintings in a similar style. That's because this is part of the Viennese secession movement in the style of Gustav Klimt. There's a lot to take in on the piazza. Even the fountains are well dressed. Oh, and don't forget to look up. That's the case whenever you travel, but it's particularly the case in Verona. I looked up as I was crossing this archway, and what do I find? Well, I wasn't sure what it was. Then I asked someone, and they tell me that it's a whale rib from the time when a traveling merchant went to the Orient and came back and decided to hang it up. So you never know what you find in historic Verona. The region around Verona produces a lot of wine. Bardolino, Valpolicella, Amarone, and many others. And you'll find many enoteche. And each April, actually, Verona hosts Vin Italy, the largest wine exposition in the country. And this had just finished before I visited there. So the city was still bustling a bit with people who had attended the Vin Italy. Verona has its own local cuisine, including bigoli, which is a local type of spaghetti pasta, and horse meat stew with polenta. So many cultures in some parts of the world do eat limited amounts of horse, and that's true in Italy as well. So that's our look at beautiful, historic Verona. Farewell. We'll move south to our last stop, which is Ravenna, about 3 hours on the train from Verona. And the big highlight of Verona is its 15th century churches decorated with best in the West mosaics. They are fantastic. This is from about 400 to 600 AD, when Ravenna was the capital of the Western Roman Empire. I was very surprised when I learned that. It became the capital in 402. It was chosen in part because it was on the Adriatic. It's no longer, but it was at the time, and it had an excellent port classe. So talk about a big deal. But today, it's just another wonderful medium-sized Italian city. Biking here is big. Notice the center bricks with a lighter color. This is the area where bikes are meant to ride down the pedestrian pathway. And renting a bike is a good option for a visitor as well. I had the help of Claudia, as local guide, for updating Ravenna in the Venice book. So we'll take a quick tour of mosaics in the city to give you a sense of what you might consider seeing. This is the Arian baptistry. It's a brilliant 5th century mosaics inside. It's split into two main parts: the central medallion showing the baptism of Jesus, and then you have the 12 apostles surrounding. But this is 5th century. This is 1,500 years old. Look at how vibrant the colors are. And that's the case throughout several of the major sites of Ravenna. The Basilica of Sant'Apollinare Nuovo is from the 6th century. On the left side here, there is a procession of haloed virgins, which are bringing gifts to the Madonna and Christ child. The Neonian baptistry is from about 400, and it has John the Baptist baptizing Christ with the personification of the River Jordan looking on. And again, the 12 apostles are surrounding it. The Mausoleum of Galla Placidia. Here we have 95% original mosaics from the late Roman period. I think it is absolutely stunning. I've never seen anything like it. It really was a wow moment for me, each one of these sites and the historic mosaics. Rick's favorite is the San Vitale mosaics, the Basilica of San Vitale from 525. It's impressive enough to see a 1400-year-old church, but it's very rare to see one who has an apse and side walls decorated with brilliant mosaics. Usually you might just see it on the ceiling, but here it goes all the way down the side of the walls. Many of these sites are part of a combo ticket. And this combo ticket, you do benefit from purchasing in advance, but it only needs to be a few days ahead. It can be done online or it can be done after you arrive. Piadina is this excellent local sandwich in Ravenna. You know, food may not be a historic monument, but in Ravenna, it is of monumental importance. This is Emilia Romana, so we're no longer in the Veneto, and the cuisine here is slightly different. It's famous for its cheeses and its salami, and piadina is leavened flatbread. It's either served plain or with a variety of fillings. I also like stracciapreti, which translates as strangled priests. It's another favorite regional pasta variety named after husbands who felt area priests were giving bad advice to their wives. Luckily, no need to worry about this today. You can just enjoy the pasta. Chefs here also make ample use of, I have trouble saying this, squaccherone. It means shapeless, and it's a soft cream cheese that by necessity comes in a bowl, but it's so creamy. Now, while, as I mentioned before, the Adriatic is now located a few miles to the east, during the Roman era, Ravenna was a city of lagoons, and Classe, just a few minutes south of Ravenna, was Ravenna's gateway to the world. And Classe has two worthwhile sites. One of them is the Basilica of Sant Apollinaire, and the other one is the new, relatively new, Classis Museum that I added for the next edition of the book. To get to Classe from Ravenna, you can bike in 30 to 60 minutes, depending on your pace. It's not difficult. You can bus in 30 minutes, or you can take a 5-minute train, although the trains are fairly infrequent. The Basilica houses the final major site of mosaics we'll talk about from the 6th century. This mosaic here in the apse is 90% original. Apollinaire, his hands raised in prayer, is depicted in this beautiful leafy green landscape. That Classis Museum I mentioned opened in 2018 as an archaeological museum dedicated to the history of Ravenna and the surrounding region. You can begin your time when you enter by looking at pre-Roman Ravenna, and then you'll go through the Roman history, finishing with the Lombard conquest in 751. And after that, Ravenna was no longer such an important city. There are a variety of artifacts and historic explanations and thematic exhibits. So this museum will be in the next edition of the book. And I was glad to add it because it does a great job of encompassing the unbelievable history and importance of Ravenna. And here's an illustration which shows just how close the Adriatic was back then, with Classe as Ravenna's naval port. So you've lived through my trip to maritime Venice, vibrant and lively Padua, fancy Roman Verona, and the shockingly beautiful mosaic-filled churches of Ravenna. So thank you for traveling with me in the Veneto. The Veneto. You know, we had a lot to cover there in a short period of time. And I'll just mention the word from our sponsor now before we have Gabe join us for questions, and it is the Venice guidebook, but not just the guidebook that'll come out in April, but the guidebook updates that are on our website, because regardless of what edition of the book you have, at the bottom of ricksteves.com, we are adding frequently major updates to each of our books. So I recommend you always look there ahead of your trip to add some of the latest information to your current guidebook. Okay, Gabe, are you there? Are you ready for some questions?
I am here, Ben, and we have plenty of good questions. I was trying to think of which European destinations I could research and take over with my name. I know there's Avebury in Britain. It could be Gabe Bury. doesn't work quite as well. But people really enjoyed your presentation, Ben. They appreciated not only that you spent all this time and effort to help make our guidebooks as up to date as possible, but also that you gave a sneak preview to all of us this evening. And Gary's first question was, what draws you to guidebook research? What do you like about the process of guidebook research?
Oh, Gary, that is a fantastic question. Well, guidebook research results in an excellent understanding of a city. You're living the guidebook, so you're experiencing so many sites in that place in a way that most visitors don't get the chance to. So by the time I'm finished updating the book or just the city, if I'm not in charge of an entire book, I feel like I know it in a more intimate way. I've seen and lived more of it than I would have if I was simply a traveler.
And building off of that, Ben, Steve is curious, a logistical question about our guidebooks. How often are they updated?
Well, we go in person, as you know, Gabe, which is a great benefit for us as people who love to update our travel information and for everyone who's using our books. And usually that is done approximately every 2 years.
I know our colleague Amanda, who runs our social media accounts, did like a year-end wrap up at the end of last year. And I think she totaled that we had our guidebook research team spent a total of 388 days researching in Europe in 2025 alone. So we spent a lot of time on the ground in there. And Steve also had a question about tearing pages out of the guidebook. So I wanted to tell Steve that we have our handy guidebook page book binder. So you can tear out the pages that you want. You can put them in here, and then you can slide this on, and then you can have just your little mini guidebook for the day.
That's it. Gabe, I'll just follow up with that.
Yeah.
That is a great thing to do. If you really want to get fancy, you can take your book to FedEx, Kinko's, tell them what pages you want, and they'll make a whole book for you, even adding in extra blank pages and a special cover so that you can take notes and maybe have a travel journal within your guidebook. And it's not very expensive, maybe $10, something like this.
That is a good pro tip, Ben. Getting on to some kind of specific travel nuts and bolts questions. A couple people were asking, now that they're moving to kind of a tap to pay system, are people still going to be able to get multi-day passes? Do you know?
Yes, and it will work like London's tube system, where you will be charged the lowest amount, which is the rate of the daily passes. So, in other words, if you take 4 Vaporetto rides in a single day, you'll only be charged that day's rate. Or if you end up taking more trips, it'll adjust and only charge you what the pass rate is. Does that make sense? That's what they've told us, and London is already doing it, so it certainly is possible.
So people don't have to worry about it. They can just tap on and trust that the computers behind the scenes are doing the math and giving them the best price.
That is my understanding, Gabe. I did still use a paper pass for this visit, but in the future, those will be gone and it'll just be tap to pay. And hopefully it will just be correct with the daily passes. You could always check your credit card statement to be sure, but hopefully that won't be necessary.
Another question came from Raina, who was wondering, for people that maybe get motion sickness easily, between all the different types of boats, the Vaporetto, water taxi, gondolas, are there some that you found to be choppier or more stable than others?
That's a great question. I think the Vaporetto or Vaporetti are a bit more stable. They're a touch larger and they only go so fast. Of course, the gondolas are slower, but they're also more narrow, so there can be a little movement from them. I would say the Vaporetti might be the best choice.
Another question comes from Ruth Ann. To enter churches like the basilica, the various basilicas that you showed us, Is there any dress code that people should observe?
Oh, this is a fine question as well. Yes, it depends on the church and on the site. St. Mark's, for example, traditionally they ask for your shoulders and knees to be covered. Sometimes if a man is wearing shorts, or if even a woman is wearing shorts, they don't mind if the knees are showing. But if you're not sure, ideally wear something where your shoulders and knees are covered. That is what they publicly state, at least.
Um, a couple people had questions about the various artisans that you discussed. Tina was wondering, are the Murano glass and the Burano lace, are the industries still thriving? Are there still plenty of places to buy them? Did you hear anything about these industries kind of potentially being endangered as we continue further into the modern age?
I think that the major industries like the glass and the lace are continuing and will continue for the foreseeable future without much issue. And the tourism to Venice will support that. I think that the more niche and much smaller, more limited crafts makers, such as the mini glass that you saw, that there's only a few people in Venice still doing this. And the same for the print makers, because of course we may just use someone locally, we may just print something off our own computer. Not many people are paying someone to print something in the historic way using the old machines. So those industries are in trouble. So it just depends.
And Patty was wondering, for people that don't have the time to go all the way out to Murano and Burano, are there options for buying the glass and lace on the main island of Venice?
Oh, absolutely, Patty. Yeah, that's a fine question as well. There are a number of shops on the main island selling Murano glass, so that won't be a problem. We list a few recommendations in our book.
Ben, Lynn is wondering, do you speak Italian? And if not, which phrases do you learn before going to Italy or elsewhere?
I don't speak Italian, unfortunately, and when I'm traveling somewhere, I try to learn hello, thank you, you're welcome. And if I need anything, or I know that I may need anything, such as if I think if I have a dietary restriction, I'll learn this. If I think I need to know where a restroom is, I may learn this in the local language. But these cities are used to visitors, so I would recommend you just be respectful and learn a few basic phrases. But if you'd like to go further, or if you have the time to go further, then of course, by all means, learn Italian to your heart's content, and that'll be all the better for the people you meet and for your own experience.
We have time for a couple more questions, Ben. One question from Janice. Obviously, you said that we highly recommend people staying the night in Venice. For the rest of the Veneto, if somebody wanted to establish a home base and then visit some of the other towns from there, based on the connections, the transit connections, but also just the feel of the city, is there a place that you would prioritize as a home base?
Well, Padua is relatively centrally located. It's only 30 minutes from Venice and an hour or a bit more to Verona. So if you were to stay somewhere else other than Venice, I think Padua would be a fine option. Ravenna is a bit out of the way compared to these other cities. It's a couple hours or more from all of them. So I wouldn't suggest that that be used as a home base when Verona, Padua, and Venice are more centrally located, with technically Padua being the most central.
Thank you, Ben. And for our last question, I chose the most important question, which comes from Veronica. And Veronica would like to know, when travelers go to the Veneto, what is the best dessert that they should indulge in?
Oh, Veronica. Wow. Okay.
I should also say Ben is infamous at the office. He is a health and fitness buff. So if I bring in cookies and I offer him one, he'll say that he's going to have a quarter of one. So Ben, what's a dessert in the Veneto region that you would eat all of?
Well, I'm going to first of all say that you should avoid the cannoli because they are pre-filled. You'll see them everywhere. They're pre-filled, they're very expensive, and they're not nearly as good. You should go to Sicily or southern Italy, and then they'll be freshly filled. And maybe some restaurants serve them freshly filled. But the big trend now are these not so good cannoli. So avoid those in Venice. Ooh, what is the best dessert that I would eat over and over again? I ate gelato over and over again. I mean, that's really the best thing because it's kind of warm in the city. It's inexpensive. There are gelaterias all over the place. I just had gelato and spritz, gelato and spritz, spritz and gelato.
Well, what's your favorite flavor of gelato then, Ben?
Pistachio. I'm not too
Pistachio.
crazy. What is yours?
Oh, I would agree. I think that's my favorite.
Yeah, I think the creaminess with a little sweetness, it just pairs perfectly. I don't consider Venetians as having a crazy sweet tooth. They love pasta, they love seafood. They're not big on pizza. That's a mainland and southern Italy thing. But gelato, yeah, that's something they'll go for anytime.
Well, very like Ben Green to pick the green gelato as his favorite. And thank you, Ben, for giving us all this tour tonight. I will let you take us away.
Thank you so much, Gabe. Thank you, everybody, for reliving my trip. Let's say goodnight.
Ben, you're sure there's no monsters below us?
Gabe, the Loch Ness Monster is a myth. The only thing below us is the subscribe button, which you can click on to be notified of new travel videos.
Then, Ben, what is that?
That's the link to join live Monday night travel shows.
No, behind that.
Ah yes, that would be the Loch Ness Monster. We should probably escape now.